this afternoon to our Board of County Canvassers of Utah County. And we have myself and Commissioner Ainge is on the phone, and Kim Jackson is with us. Thank you for being here. And then we have two items on our regular agenda. The first agenda is to approve the minutes of the March 17th, 2020 Board of Canvassers. Any questions to the minutes?
No, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the March 17th, 2020 Board of Canvassers of Utah County.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the minutes. As stated, number one, all in favor say aye.
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 That passes 3-0. Number two is the canvass, the June 30th, 2020 primary elections, and we'll turn that over to Amelia Powers Gardner.
Thank you. So I'm going to run through just some high level. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to interrupt me and ask them. In this election, we only had a Republican primary because we only had Republican primaries in the county, and so only registered Republicans were eligible to vote. If you'll look under the eligible registered voters, it has 201,024. That includes both active and inactive voters. That's all the registered Republicans. By mail ballots sent was 177,677. That gap is because the difference between those two numbers, those were on inactive voters. So we didn't mail a ballot to an inactive voter, but had they shown up at a polling location or requested one, we would have sent one out to them.
How did you determine what was that inactive? Just they hadn't voted for a long time?
Yeah, so there's a certain period of time that they haven't voted in, and that's a federal and a state standard. The total ballots counted was 107,069 for a total of 53.26%. That's huge for a primary. It's very good voter turnout. We're very happy with that. Utah County.
So, Amelia,
Yeah?
I guess this is probably a dumb question, but that means that you count the turnout based on the total, not on the active.
Yeah, so
because it would be a higher percentage of the ballots that you actually sent out.
Yeah, so we're counting on anyone who's an eligible voter at that, not just the active voters, but anyone who would be eligible to vote.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Great question. We had 1,973 people vote in person. For that, the total percentage of that is under 2%. That's fantastic for us. This was designed to be a vote by mail election. The legislature intended it to be a vote by mail election. We typically have about 10% of our voters cast their ballot on election day, and we had less than 2% this time. So that's really great. We had the majority, obviously, the vast majority returned through mail or through drop boxes. And of those in-person voters, we had 764 affiliate on election day. The one thing that was allowed, if you were an unaffiliated voter, you could affiliate as a Republican on election day. So those were people that were able to change party from unaffiliated to Republican. Updated addresses on election day is 177. Once again, this is huge. That means that we had 1/10 of 1% of the ballots that we sent out needed an updated address change on election day because we were so proactive at that before. That's huge.
Is that 177 of?
The 177.
Oh, really?
The 177,000.
On election day? So even with the mail-in, they are changing it on election
Yeah, so those
day?
are people that changed their address on election day. So they were a registered Republican or they were unaffiliated and affiliated, but we didn't mail them a ballot to their current address because they had moved and not updated their address change. That gave them the ability to update that address change.
So was there some that changed their address not on election day but before because you got your mail-in?
Absolutely, there were plenty.
So we're not counting that. We're just
No, we're not counting that.
election
These
day.
are just people that came to the drive-through locations on election day. Yeah. We don't.
Amelia,
Do you want me to go through?
yeah.
What was that?
So you mentioned the 700 and some number that affiliated on election day.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any data on, because there was some conversation that, there was party switching, which is allowed up to a certain date. Do we have any data in this report?
This report does not include that data. We do have some preliminary numbers. The system the state is currently using for voter registration does not give us the ability to run reports with that. So we ran manual numbers leading up to the election. And what we can tell you is how many registered Republicans there were before this, season, and how many registered Republicans there were after. So it's not scientific. This is just more of this is what we had before, this is what we have now, and look to see as Democrat numbers go down, Republican numbers go up. The system that they are implementing next year in 2021 hopefully will have that functionality, but that doesn't help us a ton this year. We do have some rough numbers. I can get those for you later, but this report doesn't include that. What I can tell you is that it really was only maybe a fifth or a sixth of the increase in Republican voters were Democrat to Republican. The vast majority were unaffiliated to Republican or new registered voters.
And the 177 is totally unaffiliated. I mean, that number
Yes, they would have been
represents
unaffiliated.
It wasn't a party switch on that number.
Party switches were not allowed on election day, so that's correct. Cure letters sent 1,135. We did something new this year. We used a mobile app called Global Mobile, and if we had the cell phone information for a voter, they could utilize Global Mobile to cure their ballot. And we had 221 people use that. That's a huge time saver for us. It's an incredible convenience for the voter. So we're pretty excited that went fairly well, and we had over 200 people utilize that. Cured by mail or email were 256. So almost half the people who cured their ballots did so using the Global Mobile app. That's by mail ballots not accepted. We had 658, and you can see there's a myriad of reasons why. Returned unsigned, signature didn't match, empty envelopes, or only a ballot with no envelope. The majority of those came with people who returned their ballot unsigned. Now, with these ones where if the signature didn't match or the ballot was returned unsigned, we are spending the next few months, we will be investigating every one of those. We're looking for patterns in that. We're going to be looking to see if a signature matches someone else in their household, etc. So we'll do some more investigation there. It's a very small percentage of the ballots that we have, but we want to look at every one of those to ensure that we don't have anyone attempting fraud in our county.
Were our numbers down from other counties? Or have you had time to even compare?
As far as like returned unsigned and things?
Yeah,
We haven't even had time to compare that yet.
I'm just curious.
But they're
how
not
we would-
outside the parameters of normal.
No, they're pretty low,
Yeah,
actually, so I would think we would do well
yeah.
compared to others.
So, in fact, when you get down and you can see our returned, we're doing really well as far as voter list maintenance and things. Postmarked invalid, this is an interesting one. The postmark deadline was extended to election day for this election. We've always had it the day before the election day, and this time it was extended. And yet we still had 446 ballots come back that were postmarked too late. So there's still a handful of people that stick their ballot in the mailbox on election night, not realizing if it's past their postal carrier pickup, it's not going to get postmarked till the next day. So that was unfortunate that we were not able to count those 446. So the next one that is of particular interest to us are the online ballots, the ballots that we used a remote ballot marking device to cast. There's only two demographics of people that are eligible for that. That's our UOCAVA, our overseas and military citizens, and our disabled voters. We had 232 people request an electronic ballot that were eligible for it, and we sent those to them. 152 people returned their ballots to us electronically for a total of 65.52%. So that means those that are eligible and opt in for that electronic ballot, we have a higher voter percentage than for those that we mail ballots to. which, once again, that's very out of the ordinary. Typically, your UOCAVA and disabled voter percentage is significantly lower than your standard voter turnout. So we're doing a very good job of reaching out to those typically underserved populations.
Do they have to ask for that though, right?
Yeah, we offer them. So
So-
we'll send them a proactive email letting them know they're eligible, and then they need to affirm to us that they would like to utilize that.
Right, okay.
And then the provisional ballots, we had significantly higher provisional ballots than other counties, 660. The reason why is if somebody showed up at our polling location, we let them cast a provisional ballot rather than saying, oh, you're a registered Democrat, you're not eligible, because a lot of people are insistent that they were a registered Republican and whether or not they'd registered to vote previously. And we didn't want our poll workers to have any of those confrontations, particularly during a pandemic. We didn't want anybody upset, yelling. So we let everybody cast a provisional ballot, and then we decided we would sort that out on the back end. That takes more energy, but it was worth it to have a smooth election day for us. And if there was a possibility that they were eligible to vote, we wanted them to have that opportunity. So you can see of those, we counted 168 of those ballots. We did not count 492. You can see the vast majority of those were because the people had the incorrect party affiliation. Almost all but 99 of them, it's because of the incorrect party affiliation. And then another 79 were not previously registered to vote in Utah County. That's all but 20.
So can I ask you a question then?
Yeah.
So there was, voted in person was 1,973. The provisional ballots were all in person, correct?
Yes.
So that's 660, and then of the provisional ballots that were counted, only 168 were counted of that. So there's a 400 vote difference in there. So I'm just looking at, and for some reason, whatever it was, there was about 400 people that probably shouldn't have been voting, or they weren't registered, or so they
Most of them,
they were
like I said, the
showing
vast
up.
majority, almost 400 of them were, they were not registered Republicans.
They were not registered Republicans. Okay,
So they were registered voters. They
registered voters, just not registered Republican.
yeah, and as a closed primary, they were not able to vote in the Republican primary.
Okay.
Yep. Spoiled ballots was 7. That's just, we had 7 people on election day that had spoiled ballots. That's incredibly low. Now, ballots duplicated because they were damaged. We had 963. This was a great opportunity. I know that I've mentioned before that we go through all of our processes and discover why this one. We have some equipment, a jogger, that if a batch of ballots did not make it through the jogger, then a lot of them during the slicing and the opening process were damaged, and that's why that number was a little high. And we have accounted for that in our processes come November, so that in November, when we have 200,000 plus ballots, we won't have that problem because we identified the problem and implemented solution. So ballots counted on or before Election Day, we had almost 85% of our total ballots that we were able to tabulate on or before Election Day for 90,404 ballots. That's, once again, another huge number. The fact that we were able to have that counted on or before Election Day and have those results posted election night is fantastic. It's far beyond what we as a county have ever been able to accomplish in the past. So over 80%, over 90,000 ballots, almost 85% of our ballots were reported on election night. Counted after Election Day, 16,665, just over 15%. The next one, ballots returned as undeliverable by USPS. That's 5,360, less than 3%. That's, once again, a huge improvement over years past. 2018, they had over 20,000 ballots that were returned undeliverable. We had just over 5,000. The last two numbers on there are audits. Our risk-limiting audits are an incredibly important step. They are a smaller amount, but it's a strategically picked smaller amount. And we audited 998 ballots and 965 signatures during our post-election audit. So that's the high-level numbers that we have for you. Do you have any questions on those?
So on the audits, I'm assuming without, that they all came back clean? Yeah, okay,
Yep.
okay, looks great.
All right. As far as the races go, you should have a report with all of the results from the races. The only race that's really exciting, if you will, here in Utah County was House District 48. House District 48, there's only a 43 vote difference. Now, a mandatory recount is triggered at 1/4%, and that would have been 21 votes. So we're just over twice that. We're just over 0.5%. So not needing a recount, but pretty darn close.
Well done.
Thank you. Any other questions?
No, and Paul, I'm assuming that we have to accept these. I don't see anything in our paperwork in the sense of, accepting, approving. We just accept them as a Board of County. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember.
Yeah,
from
you
the last
accept
ones.
the election as final for those that are housed within our county.
Yeah.
And then any of the races
Outside.
you accept our numbers as official for the state to tally.
So that
That's right,
sounds like that
yeah.
needs to be in the motion then.
Yeah, you would declare those candidates not elected, but
They are the nominee.
the nominees.
So you would declare the results as those candidates are the nominee for our county, and then any outside the county, those vote totals become certified for the state.
Exception the election results. You got that?
I'll probably mess it up, but we'll take a stab at it. So I'll make a motion that, that we accept the canvass and certify those in the county as candidates for the Republican Party, and also certify those outside the county that the numbers going forward are certified in the county. Does that cover it?
I think so.
Okay.
I second that.
I got a motion and a second to number 2 on the canvassing on our regular agenda. All in favor say aye.
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 That passes 3-0. Any public comment? All right, seeing none. Last motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is second to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
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 We're now adjourned. Thank you.